Today's missed opportunity didn't happen on a dating app. It happened 3 feet away. You glanced up, saw someone who caught your attention, then looked back at your phone. A few seconds later, she was gone. The biggest reason so many men struggle to meet women isn't that they've become less attractive or less interesting. It's that they've stopped living in the moments where real conversations begin. In this video, you'll learn the 5 everyday habits that quietly sabotage real-life connection and the simple shifts that make genuine conversations feel natural again, without scripts, tricks, or dating apps. The first reason is surprisingly simple. Most men aren't putting themselves in places where conversations can happen naturally. You can't expect meaningful connections if your routine is built around places where everyone is trying to leave as quickly as possible. There's a huge difference between a place people pass through and a place people settle into. Think about a crowded commercial gym. Most people have headphones on, their workout planned, and their attention somewhere else. Compare that with a climbing gym, a weekend hiking group, a community sports league, a photography class, a language exchange, or a local cooking workshop. Those places create something that no dating app can manufacture: shared context. When 2 people are already enjoying the same activity, the pressure to invent the perfect introduction almost disappears. You're no longer interrupting someone's day. You're participating in the same experience. This is backed by one of the strongest findings in social psychology. Researchers call it the mere exposure effect, first demonstrated by psychologist Robert Zajonc. The more often people encounter someone in a positive, familiar environment, the more likely they are to feel comfortable around them. Attraction rarely appears out of nowhere. More often, it grows from familiarity, comfort, and repeated positive interactions. That's why becoming a regular matters far more than making a dramatic first impression. The person who shows up every Saturday morning eventually becomes someone others recognize. Familiar faces feel safer than complete strangers, and safety is one of the foundations of genuine connection. This doesn't mean pretending to enjoy activities just because you think you'll meet women there. That approach usually fails because people quickly notice when someone is performing instead of participating. Instead, choose something you honestly find interesting. Your enthusiasm becomes part of the conversation before you've even said a word. Here's a simple challenge. Pick one recurring activity you'll genuinely enjoy. Commit to attending at least 3 or 4 times before judging the results. Your goal isn't to leave with a phone number. Your goal is to become part of an environment where conversations happen naturally. Ironically, that's when opportunities begin to appear. The second mistake has nothing to do with confidence. It has everything to do with attention. The moment many men notice a woman they're attracted to, their brain jumps into performance mode. They start searching for the perfect opener, replaying possible outcomes, and trying to avoid making a mistake. The conversation hasn't even started, yet all of their attention has left the present moment. People are remarkably good at sensing this. When someone is focused on delivering a performance instead of sharing a moment, the interaction often feels forced, even if every word sounds technically correct. The men who consistently make strong first impressions usually aren't carrying around clever lines. They're paying attention. They notice what's happening around them. That gives them something real to respond to. Imagine someone reading a travel book in a cafe, laughing at a dog that's trying to chase pigeons, or debating which coffee to order. Those little moments are conversation starters because they're genuine observations, not rehearsed routines. A simple example illustrates this perfectly. A woman is sitting in a park reading a psychology book. A man walks over and says, "That looks like one of those books that changes how you see people. Has it been worth reading?" He's slightly nervous, but he's responding to something that's actually happening. The conversation begins with curiosity instead of performance. That works because authenticity is easier to trust than perfection. Research by psychologist Albert Mehrabian and later work on nonverbal communication consistently show that people evaluate far more than the literal words being spoken. They notice tone, timing, facial expressions, and whether someone's behavior feels congruent. When your attention is fully present, your body language naturally becomes more relaxed and believable. Here's a practical way to build that skill without any romantic pressure. Every time you leave the house this week, make one genuine observational comment to a stranger. It could be a cashier, a barista, someone walking their dog, or another customer waiting in line. Don't try to impress anyone. Simply notice something that's true in the moment and say it. Over time, your brain stops treating conversations as performances. They become what they were always meant to be: two people sharing the same moment. The surprising part is that this habit doesn't just make you better at talking to women, it makes you noticeably better at connecting with everyone. The third mistake is where promising conversations quietly fall apart. Everything starts well. You're both smiling, the conversation flows, then something changes. Many men mistake a good interaction for a signal that they need to do more. They talk faster. They explain more. They fill every silence before it has a chance to exist. In trying to keep the conversation alive, they accidentally squeeze all the natural energy out of it. Great conversations don't feel like interviews or speeches. They have rhythm. One person shares something, the other responds. There's a brief pause. Someone notices a detail. Another question appears naturally. That back and forth creates momentum because both people are helping shape the interaction. Psychologists sometimes describe this as reciprocity, a balanced exchange where each person gradually matches the other's level of openness and engagement. Healthy rapport develops step by step, not all at once. Silence also plays a bigger role than most people realize. A short pause isn't automatically awkward. In fact, when both people feel comfortable, silence often signals confidence rather than uncertainty. It shows that you're listening instead of rushing to prove yourself. One of the most common mistakes is treating every pause like an emergency. The moment there's a second of quiet, nervousness takes over. Suddenly, the conversation turns into a rapid-fire stream of facts, jokes, or stories. Instead of inviting curiosity, it overwhelms it. There's another psychological principle at work here. Researchers studying conversation have found that people tend to enjoy interactions more when they feel heard, not when they're simply entertained. Someone who asks thoughtful questions, listens carefully, and responds naturally is often remembered more positively than someone trying to impress with endless talking. Here's a technique you can use immediately. The next time you're having a good conversation, resist the urge to fill the first moment of silence. Count to 2 in your head. If the other person continues, listen. If they don't, respond naturally. Those 2 seconds often create enough space for the conversation to breathe. That tiny habit changes the emotional tone of an interaction. It communicates calm instead of urgency, interest instead of pressure, and confidence instead of performance. And when someone feels comfortable around you, they're far more likely to keep the conversation going themselves. The fourth mistake doesn't happen at the beginning of the conversation. It happens right at the moment when something good could actually become something more. A lot of men spend 10 or 15 minutes working up the courage to ask for contact information. Then, at the last second, they make it unnecessarily complicated. They hint instead of asking. They apologize before they've even spoken. They turn a simple question into a long explanation, hoping to soften the possibility of hearing no. Ironically, that extra effort often creates more discomfort, not less. When you've had a genuinely enjoyable conversation and the interest feels mutual, the most respectful approach is also the simplest. You can say, I've really enjoyed talking with you. Would you like to continue this another time? If she responds positively, then asking for her number is a natural next step. There's no need for elaborate transitions or rehearsed lines. You're simply expressing interest and giving her the freedom to choose. Notice what makes that approach effective. You're not trying to convince someone who isn't interested. You're not trying to win approval. You're offering an opportunity, and you're equally prepared to accept either answer. That mindset is supported by research in interpersonal communication. People generally respond more positively when they feel they have genuine autonomy, the freedom to say yes or no without pressure. Respect doesn't reduce attraction, it builds trust, and trust is what allows attraction to grow. This leads to one of the healthiest ways to think about rejection. If someone declines, don't treat it as evidence that something is wrong with you. It simply means the connection wasn't mutual at that moment. There are countless reasons someone may not be available: timing, personal circumstances, or simply different preferences. None of those define your value. The memorable habit to take with you is this: offer interest, never chase certainty. That single sentence changes the entire dynamic. You're no longer trying to force an outcome. You're creating space for an honest one. Ironically, people often find that confidence far more attractive than any perfectly crafted line, because it communicates self-respect while respecting the other person just as much.